Hey guys, I'm Ian Harvey, massage therapist. Today we're going to talk about how to offer very deep tissue massage. I've already done a video on just offering deep tissue, pretty deep. If you want to see that, you can click in the corner over there. But I've had people ask me, what about when you get people in your office who want extremely deep tissue? They'll say, you can't go deep enough, use as much pressure as you can. Well, we're going to talk about some strategies for offering that kind of pressure, and we'll do a quick demonstration on a client of mine. If you'd like to skip straight to the demonstration, you can click in the lower corner. But first, why would I want to offer extremely deep pressure? Isn't that detrimental? Couldn't that hurt the client? Well, I'll offer extremely deep pressure massages if the client asks for it, and if it seems to offer them benefit. If they're not getting any benefit from it, if they're just sore afterward, and if they're not progressing, then no, I won't offer that kind of massage. But if their unique body, their unique physiology and neurology seems to demand more pressure, then yes, that is something that I'm willing to offer, if my body's capable of it. So some disclaimers. If you're not comfortable doing extremely deep pressure massage, then don't do it. If you don't like it, if it's not fun for you, then don't let your clients or your bosses try to pressure you into doing this. Do what you are capable of and what will keep you happy. But if it's something that you're interested in trying, I'm hoping that the tips today will help with some of that. Now, if the client's there for a painful massage, that's not something that I'm willing to offer. If they say something like, I know it only works if it hurts. If I'm still breathing, you're not going deep enough. If they say something like that, then that's time to have a conversation with them, find out why they want that painful kind of massage. I imagine that they've had massage therapists who have convinced them that that's the only way that works. And I'll let them know that I offer something called myofascial release. It's slower, it's gentle, but it's still quite deep. And hopefully they'll still get those results, and they'll still feel that massage feeling without any pain. And if that's not good enough for them, if they want that painful massage, I'll refer them out. There are other massage therapists who are willing to do that. Now, to offer this extremely deep pressure massage is going to require changing two things. One, your angle, and two, your mindset. Let's talk about your mindset first. If you're worried about hurting your client, then you're less likely to be able to offer this extremely deep pressure. If you're overly concerned with causing physical damage, realize that the human body is extremely resilient and that your client knows their unique body best. They are the expert in the room on them, on that human body. So try to leave some of that fear behind so that you can offer pressure in a way that's comfortable for your body, and so that you're not constantly trying to preserve their body at your own expense. We'll talk about that more in a second. To your angle, we're going to change our angle from kind of to the side to being over the client. And the easiest way to work with mindset and angle is to start with an empty table. No clients. Because I want you to get comfortable giving your weight to this surface. First of all, we're going to start with a very low table. This comes up to about the top of my knee. You may want a little bit higher than that if this is no good for your back. What we're going to do here is try to create the biggest and deepest indentation in this table foam that we possibly can. And if you try to use your normal massage techniques to do this, you're not going to create a very deep indentation. The same thing if you're working on a client. If you're trying to use those same massage techniques that you've always used, just stronger, you're going to set yourself up to have pain in your wrists, fingers, and thumbs. And I don't want that. So instead of that, let's try to create that deep indentation. Let's try open fists. Let your fingers be floppy and let them not be doing any of the work. We're going to work with these metacarpophalangeal joints here, these punching knuckles. Use both hands. Your thumbs, again, are just staying out of the way. They're going dead. And get over your knuckles here and drop your hips. By getting your center of gravity over this table and dropping your hips, you're going to be applying most of your body weight down into this table. What if we need to come toward the sides, like maybe we're working with this lateral hip? Well, we're going to need to angle our body. So we're going to need to come into this kind of Superman position where we get our feet way away from the table, and the further away that you step, the more you're able to angle that pressure forward. The more of that body weight you're going to be able to give at that oblique angle. This is great for doing myofascial release type moves and working on the sides of the body. Alright, so a client of mine has agreed to help out. And once you've got a client on the table, I want you to remember that experience that you had just working on a bare table. I want you to have that change in mindset that comes from just trying to offer as much pressure as possible without worrying so much. If you're worried, that's going to translate into your touch. It's going to make you seem less confident, and you'll hold back. And that's not necessarily what every client wants. So start, now that you've got a client in front of you, again with trying to offer as much pressure as possible. Get over your fists here. If you need to get up on your tiptoes, you can. And allow your hips to sink. And by doing this, we can offer the weight of basically the entire torso. If you'd like to do this at an angle, again, you can get your feet away from your hands, step back, you can come back up on your tiptoes again if you need to, and now we can offer that same incredibly deep pressure just from an angle. So let's look at some practical applications of this. Now for these extra deep pressure clients, you may want to limit the amount of oil or lotion that you use, because it's difficult to control your strength. It's difficult to pour your body weight into your client if you're sliding all over the place. So limit that amount of oil and slow down. That can also be a lot easier for your client's nervous system to process than if you were to use that incredibly deep pressure and go quickly. They won't have a chance to consume that information before you're already on to the next move. And when I'm using extra deep pressure, I want them to be able to stop me if I'm using too much. So let's talk about angles. If I want to apply pressure this way, I could get my feet way back and go into that kind of Superman kind of move, or I can apply my hip to my own elbow and then apply my weight that way. So I've got my elbow firmly planted in my hip. And now I can proceed forward simply by leaning. I can support my own weight further by using this other hand, but I'm going to stay out of the way of the camera. And by moving my elbow up my own body, I can keep that pressure going at different angles. Until finally, I'm using a straight arm. By using this hip move, I can create motion down the entire body. I can offer much of my 180 pounds of pressure just by keeping this connection here. If you don't weigh as much as I do, that is actually fine because you probably aren't as gangly as I am. You'll have different angles. You'll have different leverage. So find what works for you. But these straight limbs and this motion that comes from the body weight is always going to be what offers the most depth to your client. Now, while we're talking about angles and mindset, you may be tempted to flatten this move out, to flatten this fist out. But if your client wants that extra deep pressure, then I invite you to try to shift your weight to those knuckles. So straighten this wrist joint out and make this move sharper. You're going to be applying more weight to less surface area, and that's going to translate into more pressure, more pounds per square inch. So that's this. This is my nice broad open fist versus this. This is a sharper open fist, where a lot of my weight is resting on my metacarpophalangeal joints, my punching knuckles. A quick demonstration, I'm going to start with doubled up open fists. You'll notice that both of my elbows are tucked into my sides here, into my abdomen. I'm going to get up on my tiptoes. I'm going to keep my knuckles somewhat straight down into the body. These thumbs aren't really doing anything, they're just along for the ride. I'm going to follow my fists by stepping forward so that I'm always over my client. If your center of gravity is over your client, you'll be giving more of your body weight. As I get to this low back, to the bottom of this lordosis where it meets with the sacrum, or if I just want to angle my pressure, I can step back away from my fists and go into this Superman position. And I can step closer to my fists when I want to come out of this move, so I'm not having to use my back to remove this pressure. Coming to unilateral work, I'm going to start by anchoring my elbow into my hip, and I'm going to do doubled up fists. I'm going to lean way away from my own fists, but I've got my weight rested on my elbow here. So I'm not having to use my obliques here to hold myself up. And I'm going to shift my hips this way as I slide this elbow up and finally remove it. And by stepping away from my own client, I'm able to keep this pressure angled, keeping it at that oblique kind of 45 degrees. Now, talking about that mindset, don't be afraid to work in this laminar groove here. If you're too concerned about butting up against those spinous processes, then you're going to be tentative. Now I'm switching into a thumb move here. I'm still supporting my entire weight across my two hands, but you'll notice I'm using my thumb to do deep tissue work. But I'm only able to do that because I'm using a thumb that I could do a push-up on. If I was using it at an angle like this, or if I was trying to use the muscles of my thumb right here, then I could potentially hurt myself. But if instead I'm doing this compressive work by using a straight metacarpophalangeal joint right here, then I could put my entire body weight on these two thumbs. In fact, there are several types of massage, acupressure type massage, that use this to great effect. And anything thumb can do, thumbs can do better. So pair them up. You can also straighten out that interphalangeal joint and use straight joints all the way down. Now, of course, elbows are excellent for very deep pressure. I am using this hand over here to stabilize myself, but most of my body weight is on this elbow, and I'm allowing some of this to come into this olecranon process, my elbow tip. If you're worried about the tip of your elbow contacting the spinous processes, you can always surround this elbow with your other hand to give you some more sensory information. When I'm working with very deep pressure clients, I'm not as worried about popping and twanging over the edges of muscles and tendons, or of steamrolling over bony prominences. If you're overly concerned about that kind of thing, you're not going to be offering the kind of pressure that some of these clients will want. So do definitely stay in good communication, but typically they're not going to be as sensitive to those kinds of contact. Now, what about petrissage? when you want to do deeper petrissage? Do you just squeeze really, really hard? No, that's a good way of injuring these two joints here, and we do not want to do that. You can definitely still do petrissage, but you may want to let your heavy hitters be these straight-limbed and straight joint moves, and add in some nice feel-good petrissage. Now, if you do feel like doing deeper petrissage, you can definitely do so. Just allow the movement to come from your wrist and your elbow rather than from these thumb joints. So I'm going to create this C shape with my hand, and then I'm going to apply it. You'll notice there's very little movement at my thumb. Much of this is coming from my fingers, my wrists, and my elbows. In fact, if I wanted to, I could take my thumb out of the equation altogether, doop, and do a thumbless duck grip. Quack, quack. So that would look like this. The thumb is still hanging around, but it's not doing any work. I'm just compressing the trapezius against my palm, using my fingers and a little bit of my body weight here. Another way of going at this, if you do feel like using your thumbs a bit more, is to double up your thumbs. So I'm going to use my two thumbs as if they were one big thumb. Always using them together, not alternating, not trading off. This can be a bit of an awkward angle, so use this in a limited way. Just realize that this is a good way of offering more pressure with less work. Alright guys, let me know what you think. As always, you know, this is massage sloth. If you're doing a lot of work, then you're doing it wrong. So be lazy, let your body weight do this, let the angles do this work here, and you know, don't worry so much. Let me know what you think, leave me some comments, consider subscribing, and I'll see you next time.